Hi, are you Eric?
Yes.
I'm Brian.
Hi, Brian. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Did you have a chance to check the chalkboard on the way in?
I did.
And see what's on the menu?
Yeah.
What sounds good?
The somai soup looked pretty good, and the
Okay.
spring rolls.
All right. I'm gonna go.
Hi, welcome.
Hello.
How are you today?
Thanks very much.
Hi.
I'm doing great. We'll have 2 somai soups and 2 spring rolls.
And I'll have a Coke.
Okay,
I'll have a Coke as well.
sure. I'll be back in a minute. Excuse
Okay.
me.
Thanks very much. Well, how can I help you today?
So really what I wanted to find out is trying to figure out about how long it's going to take to finish my divorce.
All right. Well, I have a question for you. I mean, remember, this is something that's new to you, and so there's no need to feel self-conscious about not knowing it.
Okay.
And so a lot of times people are afraid to look foolish.
Okay?
But I would actually like to hear from you. This is a confidential communication, first of all.
Sure.
Even if I never see you again, you're here to talk to me, and I can listen to you and answer your questions, and I will not divulge what you've discussed with me, even if I assume that you have a wife.
Yes.
All right. Even if your wife finds out that you met with me and you haven't hired me as your lawyer, I can't be called as a witness to testify as to what we discussed.
Oh, that's a relief. Okay.
Yeah, so I want you to know that this is a confidential communication.
Okay.
So please make sure that, thank you, please make sure that any questions that you have, you ask them now.
Okay.
Because if you hold back for fear of looking foolish or something
Sure.
like that, or because of something embarrassing, I'm not saying I know what that is. But
Okay.
if you're afraid to be embarrassed about something like, you've had an affair, or there's a pornography or a drug problem or something like that,
Right.
now's the time to talk to me about it.
Okay.
Because the sooner you address it, the more easily I can help mitigate that.
Okay.
Now, if you don't have anything wrong with your life like that, and simply are just in an unhappy situation,
Yeah.
we can talk about that too. I don't need you to confess sins.
Yeah.
But I want you to know that this is a time when you really should share with me whatever concerns there are, and you mention how long will it take.
Right.
Okay. How long do you think it'll take?
I was thinking it would take maybe a couple of months.
Well, if you and your wife get along well enough to reach agreements, we could get it done in a couple of months. I will mention that there are most judges who are of the opinion that you have to wait 90 days before you can get divorced. That's not
So
true.
3 months.
It's
Okay.
not true, actually. It's only
Oh,
if you
wow.
decide to go into court and have a hearing, but they interpret it to mean that nobody can get divorced. So even if you and your wife agreed on everything today and filed everything with the court and there was nothing more to discuss,
There's some tension, but we get along.
but I'm
We just-
giving you the idea that even
Yeah.
if you and your wife agreed on everything today,
Right.
you'd still have to wait 90 days. Now, I will file, if it were me that you hired, I'd file a motion to waive that 90-day period, and that has about 50% success rate.
Okay.
All
That's
right?
good to know.
Yeah. So, it's not going to take 2 months. At the best, it'll probably take
At
3.
least 3.
Even
That's
if
good.
you and your wife reach agreement before the end of that 3 months. If there's going to be tension and there's going to be some arguing and fighting, the longest it's supposed to take under the rules is about a year's time from the time you file until the time you certify it as ready for trial.
Okay.
And then once you've done that, oftentimes the trial is set a month or 2 or even 3 months after that.
Okay.
So it can take a year to a year and a half if you're
If
proceeding.
it goes to trial.
If it goes to trial, and if you're proceeding at a fairly brisk pace for litigation standards.
Okay. Well, there's some issues, but there's nothing real outstanding or crazy involved. It's just we just don't get along. It's not in the cards for us to be together.
Does your wife know that you want a divorce?
We've talked about it. It's not going to come as too
Thank
big of a surprise. Yeah. Like I said, it's just not working out. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what other questions I might have. I'm wondering
Maybe just
about
hold on
alimony.
a second until
Sure.
our food's here.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. I'll be back with the drinks.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Okay, so she does know that you're thinking about divorce.
Yeah,
Is-
we've
is this-
talked about it.
Is this something that both of you want?
Yeah, we.
Okay, so
we
it's
just-
not just one of you that wants a divorce and the other one wants to try to keep the marriage together.
Right.
Have you tried to go
We
to
tried
marriage
counseling. We have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do
It's
you
just
feel, do you feel you've given it a fair shake?
we've tried everything. We just aren't meant to be together. It's just not going to work out. We've been together about 15 years, and I'm just wondering about alimony. if I'm going to need to pay alimony, about how much the child support's going to be.
Oh, so you do have children. That was the next
Yes.
question I was going to ask.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you want to go in the order of those questions then?
Yeah.
I'll have some other questions for you too.
Okay.
But I'll start with the ones that you're concerned about most. Alimony. How much money do you and your wife make compared to one another? Like, is yours a 2-to-1 ratio? Does she make 2 times as much as you do, or how
She
does that
makes
look?
about $25,000 a year, and I make $60,000 a year.
Okay. What do you think? Have you done any research on alimony or how that works, or what's your
Yeah, I've
understanding
looked
of
at
alimony?
the alimony calculator. I kind of understand how it works, but I don't know the exact numbers.
So would you be surprised if I told you it's unlikely that you'll be able to get out of this without paying some alimony?
No, I'm kind of expecting some alimony. But I mean, I've only been married 15 years, so I can't see why it would be too long.
Thank you.
But I don't know what to expect on alimony at all. So
And
far away, I'm meeting with
What do you think would be? I mean, you probably okay. I appreciate the fact that you're saying you don't know, but what do you have in mind? Do you have a number in mind? And remember, don't feel embarrassed if it's too high, too low, or something like that. But I want to know where you are, because you'll establish the benchmark, and then I can go from there to explain what my thoughts are.
I imagine, I've talked to a couple of people, I'm thinking that child support's going to be around $350 for both of the kids, and I don't know if the alimony is going to be comparable to that or a couple $100 a month. I just have no idea on the alimony.
Okay. Yes, but what do you feel like would be a fair amount of alimony? I like to ask you first, because that way I can see, if you're close to it, then I realize it's not going to be something we have to discuss a long time.
She does have a degree. She does work. She can obviously get work, so that's kind of my
She
concern.
does work?
Yes.
How long is she working now?
Yeah. But it's part-time.
Oh, it's part-time?
Yeah.
Okay, and how many kids do you have?
2.
How old are they?
I have a 13-year-old and I have a 10-year-old.
So they're both in school.
Yes.
And where does she work and what does she do?
She's actually a mental health professional,
Okay.
and she has a degree in psychology, so I imagine she could get a good job.
So is she an LCSW? Is that?
She hasn't had that. She hasn't reached that status yet, but
Okay.
she's working on it.
Okay, she's working on that?
Right.
Has she been working the entire duration of the marriage?
She has. She works with people that have addiction issues.
Has she been working the same number of hours?
No, not recently. She just got some work. She's been working about 6 months, I believe.
6 months?
Yeah.
And why did she start going back to work at 6 months ago?
The kids are old enough. They're in school. She can get some time in for some extra income.
Okay. Do you feel that she can be working full time?
I think she can. Yeah.
Do you think she should be working full time?
Yeah, I think she should.
Is there any concern about being able to care for the children or things like that?
Well, they're old enough. They get home from school. They don't need a lot of care. They're not in daycare. They can get to school by themselves.
And does she work part time in the earlier part of the day, or does she work?
Yeah,
in the
she
last?
works
Okay.
when the kids are at school.
Okay. Now, my guess is she's going to say that she wants to be home
Right.
when the kids are home from school.
Right.
And frankly, my guess is she also likes to think, well, if I'm working part time, I might as well keep that up.
Right.
Is everything fine?
Oh, I
Yeah,
actually,
thank you.
haven't tried it yet, but I'll give it
Okay.
a shot.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me know if you need anything else.
All right.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So go ahead and enjoy your soup for a little
Yeah.
bit. Here. Have you ever been here before?
No, this place is great.
I really like it. Yeah,
It's nice.
It's a good place. Okay, but getting back to that, she will probably. I mean, just from a strategic point of view, and I don't know, how she feels about you specifically, but regardless of how much she likes or hates you at this particular point, if she's talking to a lawyer, she's probably discussing is like, look, don't go and work full time, because that way it'll reduce the amount of alimony, as I'm sure
Right.
you could guess.
Right.
All right. So, because you make so much more than she does, basically you earn twice as much, a little more than twice as much money as she does. You are correct. I don't think you'll be able to argue effectively that you can't pay or that you shouldn't have to pay alimony.
That's what everybody's telling me. Unfortunately, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but
Well, would you like me to explain that as to how that works?
yeah, please.
So tell me why you feel it doesn't make sense, and then I'll see how
Well-
much your thinking aligns with the way the court analyzes it.
I just thought that since she's capable of working, that she's about to get her degree and she'll be LCSW, that she should be able to, make an income. And she doesn't. It's not like the kids still need a lot of care. They're older. So my thought was, she is a working mom. She doesn't really need me for income.
How far away is she from her degree?
I think she has just a little bit left to do before she meets all the requirements. I think she's like a month or two away is all.
Oh, really? Is this
Yeah.
a master's degree or a bachelor's degree? Or?
No, for her LCSW, but I don't know on the
Okay.
psychology
Okay.
part yet.
All right. So you don't know what it is she's doing, but you know that she's just a few months away from getting that and
Right.
qualifying, and then
Being able to
she
make
should be
more money.
licensed relatively soon.
Right.
Do you know how much money she's anticipated to make? Would she just double her income if she doubled her
I
hours?
think it goes up about 10 or possibly 20,000 because
Okay.
it's a significant.
So she'd go from about 25,000 to 35 to 40,000.
Right.
Okay. Which would be closer to what you make, and that would reduce the alimony. Now, that's interesting because if she's on the cusp of getting her degree,
Right.
so that, and is she doing that for the sake of making money?
Yeah.
She
wants-
is doing
yes.
it. She does say, "I want to make
Yeah.
more money." Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. Everything's great. Thank you so much.
you. Yeah, we've been talking about it, so she's kind of preparing herself, I think,
Okay.
for her own, to be able to have her own income.
But one thing you may want to do is, and just keep this in the back of your mind as we talk, but one thing you may want to do is wait to file until after she's graduated and after
Okay.
she's at least applied for these
Right.
full-time jobs. Because if she's done that, then you have evidence to show that
Versus it
she's-
could happen. That
right.
makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Now, see, a lot of people don't pick up on that.
Right.
And they just think, hey, if my wife or husband, whoever's the one who's not working or not working full time, like, well, hey, this person has a degree and this person used to work. It's like, well, how long ago was that? It's like, well, he or she hasn't been working for 10 years.
Right.
I'd be going, that person's out of the workforce for so long, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But if you've got a situation where someone is getting job training or going to college, getting a license, and then applying for jobs, even if that job hasn't materialized, then it's easier to say, well, this person wants to work full time. So have you ever heard of what it means to impute somebody an income?
Right.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah, I think it means, I don't know for sure, I don't know a lot of the legal terms, but I think imputing is when they say this is what you can make. so
Even though you're not
therefore-
actually making it.
Right.
So what they could do is they could say, well, all right, we will, they could do this, and this might be an argument you'd end up making, is saying, look, right now she's not finished, or right now she's got her degree and her license, but no job, no full-time job yet. So it's fair to say that she should be able to find that full-time work in 6 months. So let's assume that alimony were being set today.
Okay.
I would argue, and I believe a court would find that persuasive, is to say, I'll pay alimony at a higher rate right now because
Right.
she's making part-time income. But after 6 months, whether she has a full-time job or not,
She has the ability.
we're going to impute to her this full-time wage. And what are we going to base it on? Well, we're going to look at the workforce services data
Right.
and say somebody for her region, for what she, for her skills, which are brand new, a newly minted LCSW. It's like, oh look, she's supposed to be making around $40,000, and so we'll impute to her that much, whether she's making it or not.
Right.
And that would affect not only alimony, but it would also affect the calculations for child support.
Okay.
Now you've been to our website and looked at the
Yes.
child support calculator.
Saw that on the website.
And you went to the alimony calculator too?
Yeah.
Okay, now-
I didn't know how to work it.
Now you can
both of
see,
them, but-
right, but that alimony calculator, Utah's child support is easier to calculate because that's a statutory mathematical formula.
Right, that one I could kind of figure out.
You literally plug that into the calculator
Yeah.
and that'll tell you what the statutory
That's where I came up with
guidelines
the
are.
numbers. Yeah.
Alimony we don't have. We don't
Right.
have guidelines for that. So that calculator I have for alimony shows you about how low you could expect it to
Yeah.
be, which in your case could be zero,
Right.
but not likely. How high it could be expected to be, which is possible but not likely.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see some other things in the middle.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Children.
Okay.
What kind of arrangement do you want with child support?
Well, I don't know if is that something that the court is going to put in an order, and they're just going to take it from my checks, or can I pay it? How does
I'm
that
not
work?
talking about child support because,
Oh,
as I understood, you put your numbers
Oh, you
in.
mean custody?
You calculated the child
Oh,
support and
yes.
you know what that was going to be.
Right,
I wanted to
roughly.
talk about, do you have any questions about child support?
No. So you're talking
Good.
custody.
So I'm talking about child custody.
Okay.
What do you want to talk about with regard to child custody? What is it you would like to see happen? Now, before you say anything, I don't want you to answer by saying what you've heard
Right.
from your friends or family or what you've read online or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because although you may be spot on with what you've heard,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell me what you actually want first.
Okay.
What do you want?
So I think I'm probably going to, I don't think she's going to fight me on 50-50 custody, so that we both have the legal say, and we're going to have the kids we'll share every other weekend and some, additional weekends. I don't know exactly the breakdown on the schedule, but she's. I don't think she's going to fight me on that. The kids, both, they love both of us. There's not really an issue of if they're going to have a preference with mom or dad. I don't think we're going to have issues with that.
How do you and your wife still live together in the same house?
Yeah.
Which one of you is planning? Are you planning to sell the house and both of you move out, or which one of you is planning to leave?
I'm going to get another house close by, not in the same exact neighborhood, but a few miles away. And we've talked about that on purpose. So
okay, now let me tell you a little bit about that. Is it going to be in the same school district?
Yes.
Is it going? I mean, are you a religious family?
Yes.
Is it going to be where you're in the same parish or ward or something like
Unless
that?
Unless they rezone, we should still be
Okay, so you're going to be in this. Okay, that's good. So they'll be near the same friends, same school, and same.
Right. We didn't want to upset the kids' lives.
Can they walk to the house that you're planning to move into? Your kids?
They can.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You must have been reading our website. Then.
I did look into that, and I realized that if I put a lot of distance between me and my wife, ex-wife, that would just cause all kinds of problems for travel.
Well, and it gives people arguments to make.
Right, and we're not fighting. We don't hate each other's guts. There's no major reason for us other than we're going to remain friends. So
well, I'm happy to hear that. I will warn you that if I had a nickel for everybody that says that, I wouldn't have to be practicing divorce.
Right. We knew each other for many years before we got married. Okay. It is a mutual decision. It's not like one of us. Okay. Yeah. So we really aren't. It's not going to be a hard divorce as far as. I mean, sure, it's going to get more difficult because there's a lot of tension, like I said, and some high emotions. But
all right. What do you think? Is the house going to be something that she can afford to pay for on her own?
Yeah.
She'll be able to refinance that?
Yes. We've almost paid it off, and I'm not going to fight her on the house. I have another house ready to go.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's fortunate. Not everybody gets to make that kind of transition. Okay. Do you have a lot of debt?
No.
Okay.
She's good on that.
Do you have any debt?
I think she has some.
Okay.
Now, is that something I'm going to have to pay part of?
Let me guess. Student loans?
Yes.
Okay. You probably will not have to pay for her student loans.
Okay. And she does have a couple credit cards.
And do you want to know why on the student loans?
Yeah.
The idea here, at least, I mean, there are many arguments for it, but the one that seems to make the most sense and gets argued and accepted the most is, well, if she's going to borrow money to go to college for the sake of bettering herself and increasing her income, well, then it wouldn't be fair for you to have to pay for her loans when you don't get the benefit of the education that she takes with her.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Same thing for you, by the way. If you have any student loans, even though you might say, well, I earned that money to take care of my family. It's like, well, it's your loan, your education. It's personal to you. Mm-hmm. You'll be stuck with that. Now, you mentioned some credit card debt that was in her name.
Yes.
Is she going to want you to contribute to the payment of that?
I mean, the credit cards that she has, they were things that were her personal items, but it did happen during the marriage. I don't know if
so. She wasn't buying groceries, and she wasn't buying clothes for the kids, and she wasn't buying.
She got herself a car
with a credit card.
She got a car and paid payments on it. Got it from a dealership.
Yeah, but on a credit card.
Yeah, and used the card. She was trying to build credit. With
okay.
Yeah. She had money saved.
All right.
But she wanted to.
Is the credit card in her name only?
It is in her name.
Okay. How much debt are we talking about?
I think she has 2 cards, and they were maxed out at about $5,000 each. So probably a little over 10,000.
Okay. And is she struggling to make payments? Is that?
No.
Who makes the payment right now?
She does.
Out of her own income?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She has it just set up just to pay the card off because she, like I said, she's building credit. So it's pretty smooth. Just direct deposit goes to pay the card right off. So.
Well then, as far as that's concerned, it's likely that she will be responsible for all the debt. Has she approached you about you taking one of the cards or anything like that? I think
she thinks that. I think she thinks that I'm going to take half the debt.
Because is she saying, well, because it was incurred during the marriage, and she thinks everything is divided 50-50, house, assets, debts?
She's a psychologist, so.
Would you have any problem paying some of her debt?
No. I mean, if it means that I get a clean break and then we're not going to fight over.
Because with such a small amount, relatively speaking, I mean, you might end up actually paying a lawyer $2,000 or $3,000 or more to avoid having to pay.
I don't want to spend $10,000 to fight $3,000 of
Yeah, you don't want to pay.
It
You don't want to pay
doesn't make
10 grand and say, "Great, I didn't have to pay her $5,000." It's
Yeah,
like you
but
could have
by
just
golly.
you could have just paid her
Yeah.
the $5,000 and saved yourself.
That would be
so you
stupid.
need to think about that. Now, by the way, a lot of people get really upset about that. They say, "Well, that's not fair. I shouldn't have to spend a lot of money on attorney's fees."
Right.
Well, it isn't fair, but that's the way things work.
Right.
And so you do need to look things. You need to look at things from an economic perspective, not so much as to what you know. If you stand on principle, you can do that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that financially speaking, it's all going to come out perfectly balanced.
Right.
So if you were to agree to pay half of her credit card debt, it would be virtually impossible for her, in my opinion, for her to argue for any more,
Right.
especially
Okay.
when it's her expenses. You know what I mean? So that actually might get you some leverage in other areas where you're saying, "Hey, look,
Good.
I don't have to pay this money, but I'm happy to do so." I wouldn't tell her that it saves you money,
Right.
because then she's thinking like, "Oh, well, then I'll do
Right,
what
if
else
she's
can
mad,
I? Yeah,
sure.
what else can I do to get you to cough up more money and make
Sure.
concessions just to avoid having to litigate?" Are you afraid to go to court?
No.
Okay.
I've been.
You'd be surprised. A lot of people are very much afraid because they've never been there before. They don't know what's going to happen. They hear horror stories.
Right.
But one thing you should keep in mind is that your best defense is a good offense, and being able to say it's like, look, I want to be fair, and I want to be as conciliatory as possible, but that don't mistake my flexibility for weakness.
Well, I started communicating with talking a lot about the divorce because I'd be at work, and so we've emailed a lot of things. So I do have documentation about different things that we've talked about. So I'm not really worried about her claiming different things than what we've already discussed.
Good.
And like I said, it's not that we hate each other's guts. Most divorces, that's kind of why people get divorced. Ours is going to be, I think it's going to be a much smoother thing.
Are you and she going to make decisions for the kids together?
Yeah.
Are you involved in the kids' lives in equal measures and in equal ways, or does one of you deal with doctor's appointments exclusively, and does one of you deal with sports?
Still doing what?
Yeah, thank
thanks.
you.
In fact, we're ready for the check anytime.
Okay, I will.
Appreciate that. So, are you willing to take the kids to doctor's appointments as much as she
Yes.
is, and
Yeah.
football
I have
and
a pretty
soccer
flexible
games?
schedule with my job, so.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Thank you very much.
Terrible.
Well, I'll be picking up the tab for
Okay.
that because you've already paid the cost of the consultation. I
Okay.
appreciate you being here. And I wanted to tell you just before we go a little bit about how I operate, unless there's
Okay.
any other questions that you
Yeah,
have
I did
about
want to know
this.
about do you have a retainer fee, or how do you
Right.
do your billing?
Thank you. Most attorneys will charge a retainer up front. We do not.
Okay.
And we don't bill by the hour like most
Okay.
attorneys do. We bill on a flat fee, weekly or monthly basis.
Okay.
So you can either choose to pay $500 a week,
Okay.
or you can choose, if you don't want to be having to deal with us on a weekly basis, you can pay on a monthly basis of $2,000.
Okay.
Now,
We have planned for this. I'm not really worried about making those payments because I have plans to pay to get it done.
one thing I wanted to tell you about is that something that no other firm does is we offer a satisfaction or your money back, no questions asked guarantee. And the way that works,
Okay.
the way that works is that assuming that you were paying us $500 a week, even if you pay us on a monthly basis.
And you are a divorce attorney, right?
Yes.
And you offer a no questions asked, money back guarantee.
And the reason for that is because, frankly, there's a lot of unscrupulous divorce attorneys out there.
Okay.
And you've heard, I know you've heard the horror stories. I know
Yeah.
you've clearly done your
Yes.
research. There's no reason why you should have to take that
Thank
much
you.
risk.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
There's no reason you should have to take that much risk in hiring an attorney that's supposed to help you.
Right, that makes sense to me, but it kind of caught me by surprise.
Well, and it's something that I'm personally embarrassed by because
Okay.
we have a bad reputation, divorce lawyers do,
Okay.
and it's a deserved reputation.
yeah.
I don't want you to
Family
have.
laws.
I don't want you to have to feel that way. And so each week, assuming that you hired me this week, today being Monday,
Okay.
I would come back to you next Monday and say, all right, you paid me $500. It's now time for you to pay the next weekly installment. Were you happy with the work we did?
Wow, that's
and,
good to
And
know.
if the answer is yes, then you just pay us the $500.
Okay.
Now, one of the nice things about that is you're guaranteed to have contact with your lawyer at least once a week. Now, it will be
Okay.
more often than that, but you know that because at the very
I
least,
tried calling a bunch of attorneys, and I'll be honest, you're one of the only attorneys that called me back
we're very responsive.
within the same
Yeah.
day.
I won't be immodest.
That shocked me a little, and
Yeah.
so that's why I put the appointment with you, because everybody else that I've called, it'll take them a couple of days to get back to me if they call me back that same week.
And I'm grateful that you're willing to come and meet with me.
Yeah.
So after that $500, I would say, are you ready to pay the next? Now, let's assume that you were happy with it. You just pay us the next one.
Okay.
Or if you paid us for the month, we just say, great, we'll apply the next $500 for the next week.
Okay.
But if you were unhappy, I don't care if you had a good reason for being unhappy or not. You can say, I was unhappy. I'm not happy with what you did. I still would like you to represent me, but I feel like I didn't get my money's worth. I would like all my money back, $200, whatever it is, without any question. We would simply say, here you go.
Okay.
Now, what's funny about that is you might be saying, well, how do you keep from losing your shirt?
Right.
Right? Well, the fact is that if I know I did a good job and I've got a client that is just trying to steal money from me, well, I'm willing to absorb that loss because it's worth it to show the client, hey, I'm in your corner and you're not going to have to just pay me, and once the money is out of your hands, it disappears.
Right.
But if I've done a good job, I just say, well, here's all your money back, Brian, and I quit.
Okay, right.
Because I'm saying, look, I know what kind of person you
Right,
are.
if I'm just trying to game you. Right.
Or even if you sincerely believe that I haven't done a good job and I disagree with you, I'd say, well, then
I
we're
can
not
always find
compatible.
somebody else.
Yeah, we're not compatible. So
That-
even
that's reasonable.
no hard feelings, but here's your money back. But we need to part ways because
Sure.
if you're not happy with this, I
Sure.
can't do anything.
Well, you actually came highly recommended. I had a friend that you did his divorce,
Yeah.
and so I've done a little bit. Of
that was
research.
Doug.
Yeah,
You're
Doug.
Doug's friend.
Doug.
He called me about you.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good.
So he told me you were getting in touch
Yeah,
with
he said you did a really good job, and all I'm looking for is somebody that's going to do the job right and not tell me what I want to hear, but tell me what's
Well,
realistically
you're a
going
rare
on.
person
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people that just aren't in that frame of mind.
Right.
Okay. What I'll do then is because I know that you need to go and so do I will send you my fee agreement.
Okay.
I'll send it to you, or you can actually receive and sign it electronically.
Yeah, and
Okay?
I've already emailed you.
Everything will process that, so you'll get that. And then once you've signed the agreement, we'll process the payment either by, you can either use our automated system
Okay.
or Brian, my assistant.
Right.
It will
Okay.
actually, his name's Brian as well.
Oh.
He'll give you a call and say, we've received your representation agreement signed by you. Eric has signed off on it. Now I'm here to collect your fee. Is it going to be paid weekly or monthly? You can elect
Okay.
at that point, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
We will not keep your credit card information on file, by the way.
Okay.
So each week you'll get called to process that. We don't mean that as an inconvenience for you.
No, that sounds like you're trying
We
to
do
protect
it so
my
that we
credit
protect
card.
your,
Good.
we protect your credit and
Good.
keep that secure.
Okay.
All right. We do have to go to mediation. That's required.
Okay.
Sounds like you and your wife would be happy to do
Yeah.
that. Sounds like we might get everything done in short order because you've discussed a few things like that. But I'll talk to you more about that process.
And you've been an attorney how long?
20 years.
Okay. Good. That's what I'm looking for.
Thanks. And we will tell you about the process more because if we'd had more time, I'd go
Sure.
into the mediation process. We'll tell you about how that works. We'll prepare you for that.
Okay.
We'll prepare documents to exchange. Does she have an attorney yet?
No. She's
We'll-
thinking about
We'll
something.
exchange documents with the opposing side. Everything will be taken care of. You will not be charged by the hour, which means that you won't be billed for phone calls to us. You won't
Okay.
be billed for emails to us.
Okay.
And
That's why you did the flat rate then?
we do the flat rate for a number of reasons. But the main reason is because that way you can budget and you know what you're paying.
Good.
One of the things that I didn't like about hourly is that the poor client finds out at the end of every month what the bill is and has no idea what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So attorneys are expensive for most people.
Yeah.
And I would think that you're no exception. But at least this way, yes, you're going to have to pay well to have the attorney do a good job. But this way, you at least know what it's costing you. And if it's within your budget, you know it automatically. And if it's
Right.
not, you can look elsewhere, as opposed to having it be a mystery month to month.
Right.
Okay?
I already planned on right around 2,000 to 3,000 a month anyway.
Okay.
So.
Well, you've done a lot more planning than most. I'll tell you this. There'll be times when I will do less than $500 worth of work,
Right.
and my staff, we will do, but there will be times when we do more. So what this is an average of what you're going to pay over the course of the time it takes.
Well, I imagine
to go through this
doing a
divorce.
divorce is kind of like building a house. You got to lay a foundation. One day it's easy work. One day it's hard work.
Exactly.
I'm not worried about that.
Some
at all.
people ask me, it's like, well, why would I pay $500 a week if maybe you're not working so much one week to the next? That's because we're not actually doing exactly $500 of work every week.
Right.
But it averages out. And there'll be times when we'll do 3 times as much work. But your payment is the same.
Right.
Okay? Another thing you need to know is that you can fire your lawyer at any time.
Okay.
And you may ask why I'm telling you that,
Yeah.
because I don't want to fool you
Sure.
into hiring a lawyer. And if you get to the point where you just feel like you can do it yourself, you feel like your lawyer's not doing a good job, you feel like you want to go a different route, you aren't stuck with me. And in the event that happens, you can have your file back.
Okay.
It's not my file, it's yours.
That's good to know.
So yeah, you need to know that you have freedom, because this is your life.
Okay.
And so, is there anything else before we go?
I think that's it.
Would you like me to send you the fee agreement?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll have that to you today.
Okay.
That doesn't create any obligation on
Right.
your part. I'll also send with that a new client questionnaire. That
Okay.
doesn't make you a client, obviously, but in the event that you decide to become a client, you fill that out, and that saves you the hassle and the time of having to meet with me again and to be billed or have time spent to prepare this. You fill that out, send it to us. We'll prepare your pleadings and the documents you need to file with court.
Okay.
Send them to you once you've retained us beforehand for your review and approval. And that will
Great.
happen with every document, every letter we send.
So most things will be electronic.
With the exception of a few things we may send off to opposing counsel, we'll still copy you on
Okay.
that. But before every major thing goes out,
Okay.
you'll see it and approve it before it
We
goes
do
out.
have an outline of kind of where we want things to go, so some of that's done, and I'll just send that over to you.
You can send that over to me
Okay.
too.
It's already, we've got it in like a Word format or.
Word format,
Just-
fax, whatever. If you
Great.
even if you need to just personally drop it off at the office.
Okay. I think I have a digital
Whatever's
copy.
convenient for you.
Okay. Great.
Thanks very much. I'll take care of this,
Thank you.
and I'll see you later.
All right. Great
Appreciate
meeting
you
with you.
meeting with us.
Thank you.